tell people that you're John. let's test the audio real quick. Can you talk, just so we can hear you?
Test, test. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
All right. Are we going to CTN? Maybe. I don't think we're going to have a booth this time. I think if we're going to go, I'm just going to go to hang out. There's a lot of work.
Are we live?
We should be, yeah. I mean, we've been live, but now we're like real live.
Cool.
How's everybody? How's everyone that's hanging out in the chat? Hope everyone's doing good. Yeah, CTN is awesome. I highly recommend going. I recommend going to as many events as you possibly can. The odds of you meeting and running into great artists, or talking with great artists, or even get great feedback from other artists, it's like the best. Everyone can hear you yawning, John. Just bored. It's just already bored. I'm so bored of this.
Alright, let's do this. Are we live? Just kidding.
Hi, Nick's in here. What's up, Nick? Yeah, so this stream is going to be relatively simple. I'm just going to paint stuff, and then we're going to hang out. Again, I always try to get back into the streams whenever I have time. And I've realized there's a big problem with that.
I guess your audio is really low.
Is it really low?
My audio is up.
Oh, you know what? It's because I'm using this mic, and I had it like 2 feet away from my face. Now it should be like crispy crisps. Super crispy. Rice Krispies. Asian Rice Krispies. Korean Rice Krispies. Mexican rice. All right, that's enough of that. Yeah, so I'm gonna do some more streams whenever I have more time. Like as I was saying, I have like very limited time, and it's kind of unfortunate because I really wish I had more time to do more of these streams. And hi guys, I'm late today. I'm vegan. Yeah, that's exactly what happens when you become vegan. You just have a better sense of the world, and your life is just a little bit more compassionate, you know? So it's just, you just have a little bit more compassion in your life. Take some time out of your life, you know? It makes you start things a little later. But other than that, yeah, like as I was saying, yeah, but I feel like there's an opportunity for me to still do these and hang out and talk with people. And one thing that I want to start getting back into as well is just really getting back to my mentorships and putting a lot more time into that, and getting a lot more things going on for my students. Because a lot of my students have been really supportive and been there for me for a lot of things, for just like helping me with the classes and helping me with events and really promoting them and supporting them. And so I figured, I need to come back and just really get back to the swing of things and start doing these more often, and have an opportunity for people who are not my students to just, have a chance to talk and chat and ask questions and get a little more information. I know not everybody can afford certain types of education. And like for me, I went to Croatia. I was invited to talk there, and I saw a really good talk by Jonathan Ting. And his talk really kind of inspired me. It really showed me that not everybody has access to every single awesomeness. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody has access to the great amounts of education and information that's out there for people today. And I figured, why not I try to create, more videos and put these videos out there for everyone to experience and everyone to participate in. And and just make it so that really they're just free. And so I still think that I'll make Gumroad videos here and there, but I think I'm going to make them very sparse and very far and few between. I want to do them in seasons, so like whenever I feel like I have a lot more things to talk about or new insight on things, I'll make like a whole like batch of videos that are very specific to very specific things, and still keep them really cheap, like between $3 to $5. And then at the same time, constantly be doing YouTube videos or Twitch streams where they're just free and they're just me painting and talking and answering questions and stuff like that. Very similar to what I do for my mentorships. For my students, I look at their work, I answer questions, and I move on. And I think the problem with all the times I've tried to really I've always tried to make a spectacle out of it. I always wanted to have like a theme, or I wanted it to be bigger and better than it needed to be. I think all I need to do is just do them. It doesn't matter if there's an agenda or there's a theme. I just need to organically just start doing more of them, and so that they just happen more often. And not worry, oh, am I going to talk about something important today? Is there something relevant to talk about today? No, I can just paint something, like a robot, or a monster, or a cute thingy. I'm getting into drawing cute stuff now, too, which is really fun. And just talk about what's going on in general. And just talk with the peoples. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so with that being said, there are a few things that I want to talk about and like help promote. My students are hosting this event in Toronto. So for any of you that are in Toronto, I highly recommend you guys go to their site. Can you link this site, John? Do you have the site somewhere?
I do.
It's Edge Control is the event's name. And it's an event that they're hosting, and it's an event that they really put a lot of work into, and they really need to make it a success so they can keep doing it. And so they really asked me to promote more and more. And so I said, yeah, sure, of course. So, and let's be clear, like this, I was going to do the stream regardless. Like my buddy was just like, hey, you should just promote this too. I was all right, makes sense, because I'm going to be talking there too. I'm going to be going down there to Toronto. In fact, a lot of people that already messaged me, they're like, oh, dude, what, Toronto? You're going to be there? Let's hang out. And I'm like, yeah, man, absolutely, seriously. In fact, there's a few people for the Kickstarter that are like, oh, you're going to go to Toronto? Like, don't even ship it. Just like, I'll meet you there. Give me the book there. And I'm like, all right, tight.
Yeah, I'm trying to
that'll save me a lot of money.
Trying to save up for the plane ticket so I can go to.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Toronto's a great city. It's going to have John Palladora, Jamaro, myself, Dan, and I believe Frank too, right? Like, there's going to be a lot of really good artists there, and they're going to be doing talks. And these events are really special because I helped them design the agenda. And basically the way that I like these things to go is that we hang out with people at the events. So it's not just us talking and then we say, all right, peace out, guys. It's usually like we talk and then we actually just genuinely hang out with you at like a party or like at a place afterwards, and just talk and hang out and just really show and demonstrate that, you know, we're all in this together. We're all people, really, before artists. And so it's very, very, very valuable to me to go to these events because I really get to meet a lot of you guys in person. But also it's just a really valuable thing to just have happen. So with that being said, yeah, please, if you're in the city or you're nearby or you want to go to Toronto and you didn't have a good excuse to go before, I highly recommend it. But with that being said, let's just go right into the questions and answers. Does anyone have any questions? And I'll start answering them.
Yeah, there's a few from the Facebook.
Otherwise, I'll start talking about veganism. So you guys better ask questions.
The first one says, when do you think you will be doing more online mentorships?
Well, I'm doing them right now. We have one opened up for August. So if you're interested, just visit the website. And there's a boot camps tab. So feel free to go there. Yeah, and Kalen has one set up too. He has one for September. He's in the middle of one of his classes now. Kalen's a great instructor, man. Everyone loves his class. I was actually thinking about taking this class. Just sneaking in there. And then for this August one, I'm going to restructure some of the videos too. And I'm going to make some new content for the video tutorials. And some of them are going to include actually using 3D tools too. But it's not required. It's just going to be like, hey, if you're interested, like here's how you can go about it.
Sick.
Basically, the way that I'm going to handle this mentorship is like I'm just going to do just a bunch of tutorials and demos of how I would handle the assignment that I've given out to people, and then you just choose whatever you think is going to be the best for you. Oh my gosh, Photoshop just frozen. It's been doing this on this computer. I wonder why. Very curious. There's a reason for this. Anyway.
Next question
I need some more fruits.
Says, It says, how do you go about increasing the efficiency of your brush strokes? Do you really dedicate yourself to it, like trying to paint something while keeping in mind to keep unnecessary strokes at a minimum?
Wait, say that again. I was chewing,
How do you go
and I
about
heard only.
increasing? So it's about increasing the efficiency of your brush strokes.
Okay.
It says, do you really dedicate yourself to the strokes, like trying to paint something like, or while keeping in mind to keep unnecessary strokes at a minimum?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've solved it. Case closed. It's as really as simple as that. Yeah, I whenever I paint, I just don't worry about. I don't worry too much about making mistakes. I just paint what I think is going to be cool, and I just work around it. Because I'm at a point in my career, and I'm at a point in my ability that I just paint and draw whatever comes to mind, and with relative ease. And I'm not trying to come off like I'm this like amazing artist that like can just do that. I'm just making a point that like I've trained myself like over the years to be able to accomplish some of that. I can't do that. I should retract a little bit. I can't draw anything and everything, but I can draw most things pretty well, and it's because of just tons of training, tons and tons of training. So that question is like one of those things. Like, do I do it? Yes, of course I do that. I minimize my mistakes and I maximize the epicness. Right? Of course. But the follow up question is like, how do you do that? And that's the problem, right? The how do you do that is years of training. You don't go to Olympic champion. Like there's like this really cool ping pong players. I was watching a documentary. This little girl has been playing like since she was like 6 or something like that. It's crazy. And her dad like spends countless amounts of hours researching, like watching and rewatching videos of other tennis or table tennis players, and like getting notes and writing these notes down. Like seriously, he has like these stacks of notebooks just filled with just notes and like research on how to beat these other table tennis players. And she ended up going to Olympics and competing, and she was only 16 years old. But like she's been training for about a little under a decade, right? Yes, she's young, but that doesn't mean that because she's young, she's like this extremely talented person. It's just that she has the advantage of having a few more years of just more training before she's actually considered an adult. And like if she started when she was 6 and gets into the Olympics when she's like let's say 20 years old, that's like 14 years of raw hardcore training. I am not even at 14 years of training in art. I'm coming on to 10 years now. Following the next year, 2017 will put me right at 10. And so like don't get distracted. Like people are just a little impatient. They want to be great tomorrow. They want to have things tomorrow. And trust me on that. Like this is not something you want to get accustomed to. In fact, because of that mentality, it's put me in a lot of positions that I'm in today, right? Like because of my impatience. And so now it's kind of like backwards. So I highly recommend you being a lot more patient. Focus all your efforts and your attempts to become better every day a little bit more. And you'll get better every day a little bit more. And next thing you know, you'll be a badass. And everyone's going to be asking you the same questions that you were asking me. And you're going to have the same answers, but maybe with a little bit of a spin on it, because you're different than I am. But it's the theme of it's going to be relatively the same. Cheer.
The next one says, hey Anthony, it says, do you prefer the brush presets instead of tool presets?
I use both. It just depends. Brush presets, I think, are a little bit more, like for me, they're like sloppy. They're like I just need to get like a crazy texture brush real quick, and don't worry about like what's in it or on it or how it's made. But the tool presets, like even these ones are old. I actually have a newer one that I really like that I just made at work, and yeah, those ones are great. And so tool presets are a little bit more like sniperish. Like they're more like Like if you were to think about it like as military gear, it's like the tool presets is like my primary weapon, but then like the brush presets are like, the knife that's on my heel, or like the handgun that's like in my belt. You know what I mean? It's not really like my primary weapon, but it's there just in case. Very American of me to use gun references.
Next question.
People are just getting shot. Just got to stay relevant. People dying every day. Got to stay relevant.
It's crazy. It's crazy over here.
It's stupid, but anyway. We're not here to talk about that stuff. Let's just talk about arts.
He said, what are you doing daily to ensure your growth and development as an artist continues?
It's very simple. I don't want to disappoint you, but it's very simple. I draw and paint a lot. But more importantly, I study and gather tons of references. This is like the staple of my lectures and like my classes whenever I teach. Like I entirely get to the point of telling my students and teaching my students that if you don't study, then don't expect new results. If you don't put any new information into your brain, there's not going to be any new information coming out, unfortunately. You got to constantly be observing and analyzing new and meaningful information and practicing that information and acquiring that ability to understand it. Otherwise, you're just going to constantly be in this circle of just like, why can't I improve? Even though you are generally still improving, even though you don't realize it. But it's just more subtle, right? And that subtlety is like unfortunately too subtle, and it forces people into this weird sense of frustration. But like, here's a good way to get past that. If you get those days where you feel a little frustrated, remember, how bad were you just a few years ago? You're probably not as good as you are today. So you are improving, and whatever you're doing is helping you improve. Can you do it faster? Yeah, of course. And that just requires a little bit more practice and a little bit more focus every day until you become a master at it. Like, I've become pretty good at observing. Like, my observational skills have like dramatically increased over the last like 3 or 4 years.
Next question says, how do you approach anatomy studies?
The number one way to approach anatomy studies for me is just doing a lot of life drawing. Whether you're doing it digitally or you're in person. Life drawing in person is really good because you get to see the anatomy in action. Like even if the person's staying still, like they don't technically stay still, right? Because they can't. Especially if they're like in a dramatic pose. Like you can see them falling apart a little bit. Like, you see them psychologically like getting tired, and you can see them like start to bring down their arm a little bit, and that kind of stuff is cool because like it forces you to remember how the arm was before, especially if you drew it that way, or at least get the impression of what their body is doing in that moment before they start getting tired. So there's a lot of value in like real hardcore life drawing. But a lot of my anatomy studies came from I did like a good year of life drawing, but I still do anatomy studies, and I have not been to life drawing for years. So a lot of it comes from just looking at people and observing and looking at other anatomy art, like really good artists that do really good anatomy, and just taking lessons from that.
This one says, what's your go-to painting process, like midtones, shadows, occlusion shadows, light, highlight?
I don't have one. I just paint whatever makes sense at the time. I could do it all though, but I'm not biased. I just choose one that makes sense at the moment and then just go for it. But if I had to give any kind of like a sense of how my brain thinks about it, specifically I think about the graphic read, and I don't really think more. I don't think about the painting anymore, but like I know my graphic read, and then I'll start thinking about lighting and form. But usually what's running through my mind is like, what am I painting? Like, what is it that I'm painting, and is it cool? And if it's not, like, how can I make it cooler? That's the place you want to be at in terms of your skill, because then it'll make you so much better, and it makes people want to work with you and hire you, because they see your work and they say, hey, that's cool. And you're like, I know, right? Like, I tried really hard to make it cool. And I could tell. Yeah, dude, it's cool. Yeah, man, thanks. What are you doing later? Oh, I was gonna go to Veggie Grill. Veggie Grill? What's that? That's a vegan place. Vegan? What's vegan? You don't know about vegans? No, I don't know anything about vegans. I heard they're weird. Is it like a religion or something? No, it's not a religion. Where'd you hear that from? Oh, I don't know, man. I don't read. All right, well, we can go if you want. All right, cool shapes, though. Yeah, cool shapes. Thanks. Yeah, man, I worked on it really hard. Is it because of Veggie Grill? Does veggies help you with that? No, they don't help.
This next one says, do you work in the new project of God of War? So did you work on the
no, I didn't, but one of my good friends and like past students, but no, he's more of like one of my best friends, did, and I'm very proud that he's working on that team. It's kind of surreal, because like when he was just like starting out and becoming a student, I was working there at Sony, and now he's like full tilt. Like my students are now becoming the masters. It's crazy.
Father of War.
Father of War.
Game's gonna be so
da, 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 da.
It says, I paid to join the guild you started up. Nothing happened with it. It was quite literally an abandoned forum.
Oh yeah, man.
Plan to do anything with it?
Yeah, actually I might. Yeah, it's like it just wasn't as populated as we would want it to be. And so I think what we're probably going to do, we've talked about this already, is probably entirely abandon it, or maybe move it to a different, like basically turn it into something else. But really what I want it to become is more like what I've always wanted it to be is like a very local and social situation. And it just was hard because with not like forums work best when there's like a lot of people there. And it just wasn't working out. And so I think what works better is Facebook. And so if you have access to the guild will give you access to the Facebook group. And the Facebook group is quite active. They constantly post and they talk and they message each other. And they do Google Hangouts from time to time. And it's really cool. And so what I'm going to try to do, and if you don't have access, let John know. He'll give you access right now.
To Robotpencil's Facebook group?
Yeah. Because you have to get access into that.
The mentorship? Because we have a lot of people requesting access, but
yeah,
told me not to.
No, not them. I'm saying people that are part of the guild or the mentorship people.
Oh, okay.
Not just people that just ask.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because we're keeping it private because a lot of the people either went through mentorship or went through the guild. Whatever they did, we appreciate them, right? And we created this place where people, like, we post job postings there. People do Google Hangouts and people ask for critiques, and it's generally not a polluted place, if that makes sense. Like, it's pretty tame. People are really considerate to one another, which is really nice, and very supportive. Mm-hmm. Which one thing that I see happen a lot too is whenever people go to events, they say, hey, who's going to this event? And they either they either like board together, they get like a room or something together, or like stuff like that. Some super nice things, and that's kind of really what I wanted it to always be. Nothing too crazy, because there's really good open public, Facebook groups. Like Brainstorm has a really good one. I know Art Cafe is starting to become one of those like really good populated places. What else? There is, like the other smaller one, like not smaller, but like the more niche ones that like just focus on one or two things. Like Spit Paint's one of those things, right? But there's not like a place where you can just like genuinely just ask and people will. Because there's like some of those like places, sometimes you'll ask or you post a work and then people get real freaking aggro. Yeah. They get super aggro, right? Like, because it's letting anybody and everybody in, right? And some people just don't get it. They don't understand how to be a little bit polite to one another. Like, it's fine to give criticism, but some people get like, kind of like personal or aggro to one another. Like, hey, what? You don't like my criticism? Well, let me explain to you why you're never going to make it in that industry. And then like they get really angry. And it's unfortunate because I don't think people have ill will towards one another. It's just, like whenever you get into a heated discussion, Sometimes you just start shooting from the hip instead of like, shooting from the brain. And so the Robotpencil private group that we have is not like that at all. It never happens. People are super supportive and help each other out often. And it's really nice. And Facebook works better because everybody checks their Facebook. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's the point. And so that's probably what's going to happen. If we're going to add a cost to entry to that, I don't know. I doubt we will, because I think we're just going to let people, whoever with the mentorship. But with that being said, I probably should do something about that forum.
Yeah, definitely. Next question is it says, "What's your favorite color?"
Rustic orange.
Ugh. Just kidding. That's a good color.
Get out of here.
This one says, "How do you manage day-to-day discipline?"
I manage it basically by, I have a hard time with it too. But what I do, which I know works, is just do it. Just do something. Having a schedule really works. Making a list. A list is like one of the most helpful things. I started doing lists again. I stopped for a little bit, but I picked it back up. It's powerful. Making lists. And being true to those lists. Like, don't put too many things on there. Put things that are reasonable. And it's one of those, like, one inch at a time kind of things. And sure enough, stuff gets done. It's pretty absurd how simple of a disciplinary thing that is to implement in your life, and it just works. It just works. You just say, these are the things I'm going to get done today, and then you just do it, and then you end up doing it. And if you don't, then you just put it on the next day. And if it's like on the third day, then you get a little bit of the objectiveness towards yourself becomes pretty strong, right? You're like, I'm really pushing this thing around. I need to do something about that. Like, I wish I would have really embraced lists like 5 years ago. Seriously. I'm still working on it, but like everything takes practice, even gaining discipline.
True that. This one says, "I want to go into character design / 2D character concept art in the video game industry.
Cool, man.
However, if one applies at these big name studios as a concept artist, the job description asks for the
5 years of experience.
Do environment, characters, vehicles, and props.
I jumped ahead.
Should I still apply with my character design portfolio, even when I am most proficient at characters than anything? What do you think?"
Yeah, of course. Apply to wherever and however. Sorry to interrupt your question. I had a feeling that it was going one way, and then plot twist. AJ is a jerk off. And so I understand, but you gotta understand too that those are like usually written by hiring managers, and not all hiring managers necessarily know the value of just a person that's really good at one specific thing. Sometimes they're just like we'll just put this out there and we'll get the best case scenario, right? But for me, in my experience, you just do what you want to do and you do it well, and opportunities will come to you. Okay? And if you apply to these jobs, I'll tell you right now, like, applying online is one of those things that's it just doesn't work as well as going in person. Like meeting real people, making friends with other artists. Like that's just like undoubtedly like the best way, because they'll look at your work and they'll be like, oh, okay, this person's freaking awesome. Like, this is a great person doing great things. But if you are afraid of applying because you don't think you're going to get the job, well, let me tell you, you're not going to get the job if you don't apply either, right? And if they look at your stuff, like if you're afraid, oh, well, I don't want them to look at my stuff if they're just going to reject me, that's kind of silly. And sometimes people are like, well, what if they my work's not as good as I want it to be at the time? Well, Another thing you have to consider is people aren't freaking. They don't do that. They don't say, "Hey, you suck. Let's keep you on the record for sucking," because that just doesn't. That doesn't make sense. They just don't hire you. That's the worst that could happen to you. Is they literally will say no, and then you move on with your life, right? Big companies are harder to get into, yes. So that's why you have to work a little harder to get into them. All right. But I wouldn't be afraid of whatever they write there. If you think your work's good enough, then apply. If they ask you to do environments, tell them you can't. And if they say that's going to be a problem, say okay. Don't change your morals just because you want that job. Trust me, you don't want that job if you're not interested in doing environments and vehicles and all this other fun stuff.
This next one is, I want to get into 3D modeling. What software
Sweet.
do you recommend, and do you know any online course that's good?
Yeah. There's a place, I forget the name of it. It's like 3D Academy or something. 3D Mode. There's plenty of courses, man. You just go online, just Google it. But the ones that I would recommend, yeah, there's one, but I can't remember the name. If you're into World of Warcraft stuff, my buddy Rob Sevilla, he's started his own school, which teaches you how to do character modeling for like that kind of stuff, like stylized character models. So if you want to get into that, that's the best place to start. And if you want to know the best software, it's just really just up to you. Just try them all. There is no right answer, except for 3D Code. But seriously, there is no right answer. There's amazing people making amazing things with amazing different software. Seriously, it's like it's not like Photoshop. Like Photoshop is like hands down like the best for like painting. There's like nothing out there that comes remotely close, because like even if they get the painting right, but then they don't get the managing of how well Photoshop can handle large files, right? Like you can paint with super large files with some reasonable amount of RAM, and it's amazing. You can work with millions of layers in Photoshop. You can do amazing photo editing, because that's like literally what Photoshop's bread and butter is. And photo editing is like just off the charts awesome, you know? Allowing yourself to do like little silly things like lassoing and undoing and all this stuff is in all softwares, but like the way that Photoshop handles a lot of their tools is pretty powerful. Now, I know people use different tools like Sketchbook Pro or Autodesk Sketchbook or whatever, and then there's like Manga Studio. Like I know these softwares are actually really good for line tools and stuff like that, like drawing with line. And Photoshop still kind of suffers with that, so I would agree that there's definitely software differences for people who are into draftsmanship. But in terms of painting, really there's no competition, except for potentially the iPad Pro softwares that are coming out. There's some amazing work coming out of the iPad Pro, because it's like really good. Like some of these people made some really good stuff. Even on my Samsung, I have a really cool, like ArtFlow's pretty dope. But again, it's missing some of the stuff that I love in Photoshop. But with that being said, it doesn't mean that it will never happen in the world of Photoshop. So be prepared for there to be a change in the next few years, actually. I think so. I think it's going to happen. Like, I'm already considering getting an iPad Pro after seeing what John Palladoro did with it.
Say that was dope.
And then after seeing what Janice Schwimmer and Matthias Viersal are doing with it, like, it's clear to me. And like seeing VR being a new tool to draw with, like saw what Sparth did and Darren Bacon did, or Bacon.
This next one says, are you working on any Gumroads at the moment?
No, like I said, I'm just like getting back into like having my schedule in my control again. Like a lot of stuff happened in the last month. And I've just been like crazy overworked, and now I'm just like, okay, slowly but surely getting my life together. Yeah, I was supposed to take a nap earlier because I didn't sleep well, and I just had to do a lot of stuff before, and I was like, oh, the stream, like, so even like I was like, man, seriously, it's so crazy. But I love doing this. I love doing the streams. I love teaching. I love talking to people. I love like inspiring young artists, getting them to, become better. Like, this is my favorite thing to do. It really is one of my favorite stuff to do. And so, yeah, I mean, for the last year or so, I've been really trying to get back into the groove. And I think I found a system. I have a strategy. Out of all the strategies I tried, there's another strategy. And, that's how life is. You just got to keep trying stuff until something sticks, right? And so I think I got something, but we shall see.
What would you say is your favorite vegan snack?
Snack?
Snack.
Just any fruit, really. My favorite fruit right now is mangoes, dude. Mangoes are like filling and delicious. Yeah, I'm gonna eat some right now.
Are you still eating a lot of dates? Dates.
No, dates are hard to come by, man. Like, you can't just go to the store and buy dates as easily.
Really?
Yeah. Like, apples and stuff are really easy, but like pitless dates are like hard. Like, you have to go to either Ralph's or Albertsons, it seems like.
Do they harvest those in like different countries?
I don't know. But like mangoes, though, mangoes are good.
Mangoes are good. This one says, when doing robots or vehicles as your subject, how much time do you spend worrying about symmetry, consistency, and straight lines? And do you have any tips on maintaining these?
For robots, symmetry is really important, I guess, but it depends on like what kind of robot you're doing. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't have any real specific like strategy for vehicles. I don't do vehicles very often. But for robots, I would say, yeah, I just basically just draw the same shape on the other side. But what I do is I call it the Dragon Ball Z eyeball technique. Because if you ever watch Dragon Ball Z, they have these eyes that are like this, And if you look at like how it's handled, like this eye is clearly much larger than this eye. But when I don't mention that, there's a sense of foreshortening that you see. You see like there's like a curvature. Now the curvature is like extremely. Wait, what? What is this? You want to donate? We've never received donations via Twitch, but it's something we should consider.
Talking to somebody.
What? Oh, that's weird. Oh, people wanted to donate? Oh, nice. Thank you. I don't have a donut button, I don't think.
Yeah, you just linked me one. I'm checking it out, but
okay. Yeah, that sounds like not a bad strat. I appreciate that. I was like, what? Like, I saw the text was like weird. I never seen it that way.
Yeah, that's a neat thing. You can message.
You can like message people directly? Oh, cool. Age is a jerk off, right? Yeah, I know, dude. Wait, you're signed into my account. I can read everything you're saying. Yeah. We're gonna kill him in his sleep, right? Yeah, kill him in his sleep. Yeah. Yeah, we'll stuff some meat down his throat. Have him choke on some steak. Anyway, yeah, I mean, symmetry is pretty important for robots, or it doesn't even have to be a robot, like anything that has to be symmetrical. And so the tools to do that is just to be able to understand some reasonable foreshortening. You know what I mean? Just basic stuff. Like here's the thing. Here's a really big tip to everybody. Like, a lot of what I'm saying, and what I'm talking about is things that are just really basic, right? And I found myself, like, over the many years of teaching, I found out, like, a lot of what I was talking about and trying to teach people is really fundamental. And so I stopped talking too much about, like, hey, do this, do that. I said, like, like, really practice this, really practice that. And one thing that I really found is a very powerful tool, and I even talked to my students this morning about, was just the power of learning on your own. Because I think a lot of times people are hoping and waiting for someone to give them the answers, and if they don't hear the answers, then they feel lost and they don't get started, right? But the reality is, like, I mean, think about your instructor. Like, did your instructor or the person that you're looking up to, did they potentially have a point in their lives where they didn't have the answers? And the answer is yes, of course. So for that, you can compare yourself in that regard. You can understand that I, at one point, did not know how to actually practice accurately or effectively. Like, that was for a while. In fact, I think it took me 5 years until I really understood what it really meant to practice and study. And what it came down to is I realized you had to be a scientist, essentially. Scientists are the greatest role models in terms of learning, because they, especially the best kinds of scientists, because they generally will be told that there's a problem in the world, and they won't believe it unless there's evidence proving so. Right? They're practically skeptical. They're not skeptical for the sake of skepticism. They're skeptical because they're like, well, is the proof there? Like, there was this thing that happened on YouTube, for instance, that I watched. This guy, Philip DeFranco, is really great, and he was talking about the scandal that was going on about this lady who accused all this other YouTuber, I guess, of rape, right? And it didn't happen, but yet a lot of people believed her, and went on to this thing and really kind of destroyed him. And then later on, they found out that all her accusations are completely wrong. And so then then all the people that obviously jumped the gun a little too soon, started apologizing. But it was kind of the damage was already done. But it was one of those things that a scientist or even investigators wouldn't just be. In fact, it's one of the things that good detectives do not listen to, is these claims until there's some impeccable evidence. They don't discount the claim because it's a very serious claim, but at the same time, anyone can just say that, right? You can just say what you want, and you can cry and you can act a certain way, and people will believe it, right? And so you have to show evidence. And with art, I approach art that way. I look at my students' work, and they tell me that they did this or that, and I can tell. Luckily for me, art is the evidence, their artwork, right? I can look at it and be like, no, you did not do that, And no matter what you said you did, the evidence is literally in front of me. I can see that you didn't do that, or I can see that you did do that, and I want to applaud you for that. Good work. You know what I mean? Yeah, Filthy Frank. No, I said Phil DeFranco.
Did you say Filthy Frank?
Filthy Frank.
Are you still lifting, AJ?
Yeah, actually.
Do you even lift?
Yeah. Veggies in my mouth. Compassion. I lift, wholesome compassion and relative, good consciousness to the world and the people around me.
This one says, is it true you can crush a watermelon with your biceps?
Yeah. Next question.
If you get an art test and you don't think you can get it done in the time they ask, would it be best to ask for an extension to the deadline?
Yeah, sure. You want it to be the best you possibly can, and you want to be honest as possibly can. Because if you do it, and it took you that extra time, but you killed it, they're gonna respect that. If you ask for the extra time and you don't kill it, then they're not gonna hire you. Again, worst case scenario, they're not gonna hire you. No big deal. Keep working. I have friends who failed the art tests for really good companies, but now they work for really good companies. So it's not like I said, there is no industry blacklist of people that suck. That no one's gonna be like, this person worked so bad, I'm never ever gonna hire them, even if they become the next Jamie Jones. Nope. Because of how bad the work is today. It's just not a real thing, man. It doesn't happen. So don't be afraid of trying, and don't be afraid of failing.
How do you avoid being insecure? It says, when I started at my part-time job, people were asking me what I'm so afraid of.
Dang, dude. Can you make that any louder, dude? It's crumpling. We got one of our students here, Jerma, a good friend of mine. He's just disruptive, man. Alright, say that again. I'm going to eat this mango. I'm going to try to listen too.
When I started at my part-time job, people were asking me, what am I so afraid of? I didn't know I was insecure. I was just careful on my first days at the new place. But it's kind of omnipresent in my
Uh-huh.
life, and I think it keeps me away from achieving my goals. So, how to get rid of the fears, how to become more confident and be proud of my own works. You were reading up on some brain functionality stuff, right? Could you please point to some trustworthy sources about that kind of stuff? Thank you, Sensei Robot Pencil.
Um, so the places that I looked, I don't have them offhand, but I just Googled some. I tried to find like really accredited websites that are mostly reliable. Here, not Facebook. I just opened up Facebook. That is not one of them. Now there are accredited people that live on Facebook. That is true, but PubMed is a good one. So if you go here, this is a public medicine site. This is run by the government and is where other doctors and medical officials from all kinds of fields come here and they post all kinds of results and information. Now it's pretty heavy stuff, like it's hard to read. So what was it again? Insecure?
Yeah, it's insecurity.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is mostly about like food.
I think it is a separate question.
But you can still find some pretty reasonable information here. Now, a lot of this stuff is usually about like nutrition and medicine and everything that revolves around health. So I'm not sure if there is something in here. But you know, you can go start reading stuff, and this is usually what I would start. I'll start reading these things. I'll probably start right off the bat, like reading the conclusion. And then one thing that's cool is that like it will tell you all of the people who have written this paper or who've written this, and then you can look at all the authors and like who they are and where they teach and who they are affiliated with. You know, versus like BuzzFeed's like 12 ways how to lose fat. You know, it's not as reliable, right? So you want to like find websites like that. You want to research from places like that, especially for real medical conditions. You don't want to just live only on WebMD. You know, you want to like look on some really reliable sources, because even stuff on WebMD is inaccurate and some of it's outdated. I mean, I'm sure if you ever had a doctor appointment and you went in there, you're like, I have cancer. It's a WebMD. And they're like, get the fuck out of my office, right? Because, you know, like a lot of that stuff is a little exaggerated. And so you need to kind of like, you know, you have to be reasonable with your research. But from what I found, or I remember seeing, is that anybody has insecurities or any kind of anxiety issues, it's one of those things that you really can't eliminate from what I saw in research. You know, and so that's why I kind of really retracted my mentality of like suck it up type of attitude towards students or others. I don't do that anymore. I've stopped doing that actually for about a few years now. But there's still some artists that have that mentality, and other people, and it's not because they're like insensitive. It's just that they don't know that they might not be right. You know, because maybe it worked for a select few. And so it worked. It worked for this person. That person had what it takes. That's just an excuse on the teacher's part by saying something like that. Am I saying that everybody is capable of epicness and greatness? No, of course not. But does that mean that that person that was insecure was not capable of becoming great? Absolutely not either, right? Because there's an opportunity for, like, for instance, it happened to me with one of my students. It came down on her really hard with some feedback. It wasn't feedback that was not respected. It was pretty reasonable feedback. I was just pretty stern about it, and if she didn't like that, and she quit my class. And what was sad about that is, like, you know, I could have been like, well, I guess she didn't have what it takes. But the reality was that her work was actually not bad. Like, she had pretty good work. But because I kind of pushed her over a little bit, she felt like maybe it wasn't made for her. And maybe that's true. Maybe she's doing great right now, and she's doing what she actually really wants to do, whatever that may be. But I realized maybe it wasn't my place to push her so hard, but to more importantly find out what was the root of her problem. Why was she so defensive? Why was she so on guard about my criticism that she just wouldn't allow me to get through? And that has allowed me to become a much better teacher over the years. And so one thing that I've learned about that, like insecurities and anxieties, is that the best way that I've approached it is to manage it, to tell people that, okay, look, whatever you feel insecure about, use deductive reasoning. Basically start like removing things that are clearly untrue, because usually insecurity or anxiety is a mental thing, right? Usually it's your own brain making up scenarios that are not actually happening and that are not actually, you're just thinking of every possible problem that could happen, and that shit's getting you worked up, right? And so a real good like practice to that is just to think about it and say, but if that did happen, what is the worst that could possibly happen? And do people really, like, in the history of my life, has this actually happened this often? So for instance, let's say you're at work and you're feeling, oh, I don't want to get fired, I don't want people to think that I don't know how to do the job, like, oh my gosh, like, these people, I don't even belong here, there's better artists that deserve this position more than me, like, what am I doing? Like, I gotta work harder because I need to prove myself. Let's say these are all the things that are running through your mind. So just go through one at a time each question. Maybe even write it down and answer it, like with a more logical, more objective point of view, instead of the reactive point of view that you're going through right now in your mind. So then you take a moment, you write it down, and then write down the solutions. Like, okay, well, like, they wouldn't have hired me if they didn't think I was good enough. Yes, maybe I was lucky because of the timing, but I should take this opportunity to do my best, because other artists would love this opportunity, but I did not. But I got it, and they didn't. So I should really be grateful, right? And then that turns that kind of negativity into a positive way of thinking, right? And then they say, oh, well, there's other artists that deserve this position, and then you say, well, that is true. But maybe those artists don't want to work here. Maybe those artists already have places they want to work. You know, maybe they've worked here before, or maybe they they're already working currently, and there's no need for them to even apply here. So I shouldn't worry about it. You know, all I can really worry about is the quality of work that I'm doing today, and the work that I'm doing for others right as of now. You know, and you just keep doing that. You just keep going through the list of things that you feel insecure about, and you just write down the more sensible, more logical, more reasonable outcome of that situation. And so that you just get out of your way and you let your mind actually have answers to these overwhelming amount of questions and problems that are just flooding your brain. Because that's really what it comes down to, right? So for me, like, I'm super confident person. You know, I'm pretty confident in a lot of things that I do, especially even after I fail tremendously. I failed so many times at so many different things. Trust me, man, I'm really bad at a lot of things. But yet I'm still very confident, because I know at the flip side, people are generally awesome and people treat you pretty well. And time usually heals, which means that over a long period of time, as long as I'm making progressive moves forward, I should be able to get out of things. Even if it takes a long time, even if it takes more than I expected, it's fine. You know? Like, there's nothing wrong with just waiting things out a bit, right? And then just being one thing is also, my confidence comes with, you know, the ability to understand that I do fail often, and I've really embraced that over my career, because I realized, and I posted something earlier on my Facebook earlier this week about education, and one of the things that I think was wrong with the educational system today is that it doesn't help quantify failure in a positive way. It quantifies failure in a negative way, and education has been like that for quite a while, and it needs to change, because it needs to teach students that failure is part of becoming great. And if you don't fail, like if you fail a test, they fail you in the class and you have to do it again, but they don't explain to you why that's important. They just say you shouldn't have failed, or you should do better in school, you should just memorize better, you should have better sensibilities. But like, that's not true. Like, maybe say, look, why did you fail? Let's analyze it. Let's inspect it. And I get that's a hard thing to do and export to large quantities of people. But trust me, we live in a different time, and there's a lot of smart people already solving these problems. It just needs to be instituted into as many programs as possible. So it prevents people like you and I and others that run into different types of problems, and also, more importantly, remove this anxiety that this is a growing problem. You're not alone, man. Like, this is a growing problem in the world, and it's a human condition. Animals definitely get anxieties, but like this is definitely a human condition based off of our societal expectations, right? Like we are not monkeys in the trees anymore, right? We are in a different field, and our brain is not equipped for this type of stuff anymore. You know what I mean? And some people just can't handle it, and that's why there's a lot of depression. There's a lot of anxiety, insecurities, and a lot of smart people, like I said, are solving these problems and starting to understand the inner workings of this. So I would say, but in the meantime, why don't you just try to take it slow, manage it one step at a time, with the knowing that you may never eliminate it, but at least you have control over it. Hope that helps you out, bud.
Toy.
Tight, tight, tight.
Toy.
Toy, toy. Went from a real inspirational speech to just the bad guy from
Cool idea. Cool.
from Breaking Bad.
Tight. This one says, what is the most significant change you have brought to your workflow or life that you feel has made you better?
Studying a lot. That happened like maybe 5 years ago, when that really hit home, and I learned how to learn, and that changed everything. Then I felt unstoppable. But that's a thing that is a process thing that affects me in all that I do. But there's no single-handed thing that, like, I would say that is like a signifying difference. Like it's just all gradual. But one thing for sure is, like, I know that learning how to learn was a pretty big one. And it's a very important one. It's the one that I teach. So
this one says,
I'm gonna eat more mangoes.
I'm looking for digital painters with animation skills to work on a music video.
Oh, cool.
I've written emails to artists but no response. Any thought on how to approach artists and where to find this kind of artist profile? Thanks.
Artists who can design and animate?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't work in that field. I don't know too many or sites off the top of my head. I know people, but I don't know sites. And if you reach out to them and they didn't respond, that's on them. I would say reach out to the animation mentor people. They're a school online. Reach out to them and see if they have some sort of affiliates program where, you know, they try to hook up your students to people like you. And I'm sure they're a little bit more, responsive because they're not just like a person; they're like an organization. And then if they don't have a solution for you, I'm sure they'll be able to point you in the right direction because they live in that world. So I would say start there. Start where animators go, and just go to CTN this year. I mean, that's literally made for animation people and students. So go there. And if anybody in the chat has that capability, say, I have that capability, you can write to me. And if you don't, then don't say nothing. And say, but if you know somebody, say, I know a guy, if you want me to hook you up. And then, or I know a gal or a guy. Want the hookups? I got the hookups.
You still thinking about doing a 3D character mentorship?
I think my character mentorship is going to just be all of it. It's going to be 3D and 2D. And I'm not going to promote it entirely that way until I know for sure I have a lot of that stuff in there. But yeah, I mean, I think my course is going to be pretty much anything involving characters, but over the span of 4 to 5 weeks, and we just get you good. And you just decide. You take the red pill, the green pill. It's up to you. And I just help get you through it.
Someone says, hey Anthony, is it possible to find your current brush usage online?
No, but I should. And I will. I'll do it next week. I'll put it on my list.
Will you? Will you?
I will, because if I do it, if I don't do it by the time of the next stream, someone will remind me somewhere someday. So if this is I'll call this strike one if I don't do it. So I already got one strike. Maybe I'll just do it after the stream. I don't see why not. Just freaking just buckle down and just
You
do
gotta
it.
sign those cards, bro.
Yeah, but that won't take too long. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the point. Like, I keep thinking I don't have enough time. That literally just me putting a link on my site and just saying brushes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'll just do that. That literally would take me like 10 minutes at the most.
What's the legal cost for a freelance artist in U.S.?
What do you mean?
I don't know. This is legal, but I think he's just
It's
asking
weird.
how much
Weird
should
word to
somebody
use.
charge.
Did he?
I think that's what I'm thinking. That's what he's
I
asking.
can't think of anything else either. It depends. Some people charge $25 to $30 an hour. Some people charge $50 to $100 an hour. Some people charge a flat rate. Some people charge no flat rate. I recommend charging based off of what your employer wants, because they'll say we work with flat rates, or we work hourly rates, or we work daily rates. Whatever that is, just figure out how much your time is worth for every hour you work. So if you think it's $50 an hour and somebody wants you to do something for $500, then that's 10 hours of work. And you have to consider the iterations, the designing, the reference gathering, all of that, because all that counts as work. So if you think it's going to take you 3 hours to get some sketches with some rough design, because you would have spent an hour gathering references and studying it, and then 2 hours doing the actual work, then that's 3 hours of work, including the reference gathering. Okay? Remember, all that takes time. And I think that's the number one mistake a lot of people do, is they don't calculate how long everything they do takes. And so you just do that, and then you can justifiably charge certain rates. So if you think you could do the work in the $500 work in 10 hours and get your rate, then you're great. But if it takes you 12 hours, then your rate starts to go down. If it takes you 20 hours, then it went from $50 an hour to $25 an hour. And if it goes another 10 hours, then you're at 30 hours, then your rate goes down even more. And then eventually you get to the point where you're making money that you could have made if you worked at McDonald's. So keep that in mind. And let them know, too. Like, let them know, like, this is how many hours I'm going to invest in this. Anything after that, like, you have to pay me more money. But I will do my best.
The last question says, what do you think is better while drawing? Talking with people, listening to music, or nothing?
I like to either talk or listen to podcasts. I don't listen to music at all. I listen to people talking about something. If I'm designing, though, I generally don't have anything going on. I usually try to focus. If I'm like really designing something that I don't know how to design. But if it's like a robot, I draw robots all the time. Like this type of robot, I draw like every day.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's just like it's just like a variation of like a one type of robot I keep drawing. So it's not very difficult. It may look cool, right? Like, oh my god, what? No way! But like, yeah, remember, like I this is like my favorite thing to kind of do. And this is the kind of stuff that I'll do in my streams, because I can do it and talk and answer questions all at the same time.
So there's one more question. If you
All
want
right,
to take
last question, and then I'm gonna go. I'm gonna finish my fruits. I have some
Says-
carrots I'm gonna devour too.
When applying to studios, how do you ask for an internship if you're not right for the position? Is it bad to put it at the end of your application cover letter? Because most applications are done directly on their site without giving away their company email to message them later.
Yeah, I mean, here's the best way to think about this. Just always be professional. Don't be afraid of asking questions. Don't be afraid of trying to get opportunities. As long as whatever you wrote is professional and meaningful and honest, you know? But the best advice I can give anybody in here is you got to talk to real people often You can't just be in your room by yourself drawing and expect people are going to help you out. You gotta like meet these people. You gotta talk to them. You gotta put a face to the art, so that way you become real. Otherwise, you won't. Because even if your work is really bad, at least they know who you are for a moment, and they'll give you feedback at that moment. And people in person are more likely to give you feedback than over email or through electronic submission. So you want to try to meet people as much as possible. You might want to reach out to other artists that you think are reachable. Most are, so don't be afraid of trying. Some might not reply to you. Don't get offended, because sometimes they get a lot of replies. But sometimes they reply to you, and then bam, you got someone to feed off of. They're going to give you some good feedback, or not. Maybe they won't. I don't know, but you got to just keep trying. You got to just keep messaging and meeting people as often as you can, and make friends and talk with them, and just be friendly with don't just talk to great artists. Talk to people that are just trying to become great, like people like you who are working towards that greatness, because one day they'll become great, but then you were genuinely friends, and so there's no really weird strings attached. It's just like genuine friendship and genuinely trying to help each other out. And maybe you're that artist for your other friend, and you're helping them out. Or maybe it's just a tag team where you just piggyback off of each other, and off of your other friends who keep getting great opportunities throughout the industry. A lot of my students are becoming some epic people, man, and it's pretty impressive, and I'm very proud of all of them. Like one of my students, Milan, posted this freaking epic cinematic, and I was like, what the hell? This is so cool.
Awesome.
And it was amazing, and he worked with a few other people, and it was great. And so, I mean, it's really inspiring to see, and I get very inspired when I see that. And it goes to show, like, that guy, too, Milan, was still, like, he was one of our very first students, very friendly guy. He was a big fan of my work, and now the tables have turned. I'm a big fan of his. And it's crazy, and all that took was, like, maybe 2 years, I think it was. It wasn't even that long. And now he's doing great things. And he still asks me for advice and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know why you asked me for advice. You're making it. You're already doing it, And don't be afraid of trying and trying and trying, and don't be afraid of failing, and don't be afraid of being friendly and talking to others and making friends. It's really valuable. Trust me, it's one of the most valuable assets you can ever do for yourself in this whole career. All right,
There's
cool.
one more question.
What?
I should have asked. It was really just about because he's trying to get his portrait paintings to stop looking plastic.
Okay.
I think it is.
You might have too much contrast in your highlights to your midtones to your shadows. If you look at like Sargent's stuff, like some of his stuff is really like the tones of the skin are not that dramatic. They're very contained. And so a lot of times whenever people have this plastic look in their anatomy or their skin or flesh, it's because they're adding too much contrast to the highlights and to the shadows. So I would investigate that a little further. We're just closing out the stream. Maybe next time I can do a demonstration about what I mean by that. But for now, I gotta go. But anyways, cool guys. Hope that helps everybody out. Hope this was a great session for you guys. It was fun for me. Hope it was fun for you. Thank you guys for being supportive. Maybe we'll add a donate button. Maybe this will be something that people will actually help support in a way that allows me to keep doing them even more, give me more incentive. Trust me that I still just want to do them even if I don't get any donations. I didn't even realize you could do that. That sounds like it's such a great idea. Because even if it's just $1, it's nice. And so maybe we can do you know what? That's right. You can do cool stuff like some streamers do charities. You wouldn't donate through me though. You would donate through some other thing. But that's something that I should look into, like charities and stuff.
That's it.
Right? Especially if we get a lot of people coming in here. Yeah. You know what? That's not a bad idea.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's do something like that.
All right.
Yeah. And so awesome, guys. Yeah, you guys are great. I'm gonna try to upload this to YouTube right after this. So I'll see you guys around, and I'll see you at the next stream. Peace.
See ya.
Wait. Hold on. No pieces. I have to get this up, and then I have to press this button. Okay, now, peace.
See ya.
Okay, wait, hold on. I have to do this, and then
Oh,
I'm
no.
just kidding. Later, guys. Bye. You gonna say anything, John?